Hey everybody, Ben Rodriguez here again, and this is our video 4, and I'll be talking to you about a couple of different questions and key points that we learned in chapter 18. So the first question that was presented is, what is net exports, and what is a trade deficit and a trade surplus? So kind of about net exports and trade deficit and trade surplus is net exports refer to the difference between a country's total exports and imports. And a trade deficit occurs, and it is when the imports surpass exports, resulting in a negative net export value, essentially. Now, on the contrary, you have a trade surplus, and that happens when net exports exceed imports, leading to a positive net export value. So kind of like the opposite, positive, negative. Now, a deficit example, I have a couple examples here, and that the deficit is country A, like United States, for example, goods worth 100 billion and imports goods worth 120 billion a year. The net exports, essentially trade balance, would be minus or negative 20 billion, including a trade deficit. Well, not indicating a trade deficit. Now, a surplus example would be, for example, the United States. They export goods worth 150 billion and they import goods worth 100 billion a year. So the net exports, the trade balance would be plus 50 billion, that's indicating a trade surplus. Second question that was presented was, what is net capital outflow, NCO, and what does it mean to have positive NCO? What does it mean to have a negative NCO? Essentially, after reading the chapter, what I was able to conclude is that net capital outflow, NCO, represents the net flow of funds invested abroad by a country's residents minus foreign investments in a domestic economy. Positive NCO occurs when domestic investors invest more abroad than foreign investors in the country. On the other hand, negative NCO occurs when foreign investors invest more in the countries than the domestic investors abroad. That's the best way I can put it, and I kind of used the chapter to help me with that because it was kind of confusing to me, to be honest, throughout that. But that was what I was able to obtain and kind of learn. That's the simplest way I could put it. Now, why must net exports equal capital outflow for an economy? With this question, what I did is I put in an open economy, net exports must equal net capital outflow. This is because any excess of domestic savings or investments in the NCO must be used by foreign assets, contributing to a trade deficit. On the other hand, a negative NCO means excess foreign savings are invested domestically, leading to a trade surplus. So when a country has a positive NCO, it means that domestic investments are not enough to absorb all domestic savings, and the excess savings flow abroad, resulting in a trade deficit, importing more than exporting. And when a country has a negative NCO, it means that foreign investments are not enough to meet the demand for domestic investments, and the rest of the world borrows the excess savings from the country, leading to a trade surplus. Basically, exporting more than they're importing. Another question that was presented was, what is the nominal exchange rate? What is the real exchange rate? Which one matters most for influencing net exports, and why? The nominal exchange rate represents the rate at which one country can be exchanged for another without accounting for price level differences. Essentially, in contrast, the real exchange rate considers price level variations between countries, indicating relative purchasing power. The real exchange rate plays a more significant role in influencing net exports as it affects the competitiveness of a country's goods and service in a global market, in my opinion. Then another question is, what is the meaning of purchasing power parity? And I'm going to refer to that as PPP. And for what types of goods is purchasing power parity more likely to hold? For what types of goods and services is PPP less likely to hold? So the PPP theory suggests that exchange rates should adjust to equalize the prices of uh, of a basket of goods and services between two countries. PPP is more likely to hold for easily tradable goods with consistency or consistent quality, while is less likely to apply to non-tradable goods and services affected by local factors. PPP for different goods, when the purchasing power parity is more likely to hold for goods that are easily tradable to have a consistent quality across countries. For example, basic commodities like rice, wheat, and other raw materials are more likely to have similar prices when accounting for exchange rate differences under theory. And kind of what I wrote down here and everything. But thank you so much.